I can never get things to work for me. Also, a comic book. Now, what's comic book? Good news is, I think I've got the technology stuff figured out for the most part, as far as not having audio errors streaming. I think I've realized everything that makes it go wrong, and I think I've got it. All I have to do is not be an idiot and remember to check a couple key settings every time. So what I'm saying is we're doomed. You know, speaking of which, I haven't checked some settings. Yeah, we're good. All right. Great moment there. Anyway, hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. I am Sid Part 2, and I've got a great number of books to talk about this week. No trade, unfortunately. I was in the ER with food poisoning on Monday morning, and just had a busy weekend before that anyway, so I didn't get the chance to read all the way through a trade this week. Sorry. We're working on it. Jake Carlson's here in the comments saying nice sweatshirt. Yeah, I got this hoodie when I was on my honeymoon. It was colder than we expected in Florida, so I need to go buy a hoodie in Florida. So this is a Flash hoodie from a Walmart all the way down in Florida. I like the lightning bolts on the sides. It's funny. I've got this hoodie and I've got another hoodie. Hold on. We'll just do this. We'll just do this. For those that don't know. So I got this other hoodie that I'm just going to put on in front of this hoodie, and y'all can just see it. So this is just a blue hoodie, right? There's nothing too special about this blue hoodie that I'm putting on, and for some reason I'm keeping my head out of frame. I'm not quite sure why I would do something like that, right? Let me just zip this up over my other hoodie, and I'll be super toasty warm. But yeah, that's just a normal, average, everyday blue hoodie. I have a lot of Speedster-based hoodies, apparently. That's just a thing I do now, is I collect Speedster hoodies. This is my Sonic the Hedgehog cosplay hoodie. If you want to see more of this, I did a video with Cap years ago. Anyway, that was too much. It's a great idea. It's fun for cons, and I wore it to work for a while, but the thing gets heavy on your back after a while. So, fun idea, would not recommend in general practice. Though, key advantage is makes for a lovely pillow. So, you know. Alright, all silliness aside, I've got a lot of books to talk about, so let's get talking. This week, we're going to go through Batman White Knight, number 3. Captain America Legacy, number 696. Batman, number 36. Klaus and the Crisis in Xmasville, number 1 of 1. DC Universe Holiday Special 2017, number 1. DC Bombshells United, number 7. Darth Vader, number 9. And we won't have a trade to talk about, but I'll show that off later for what we'll be talking about later in the week. Because I will still get trade talk up this week, I just won't do it live. It'll just be posted separately, because I'll still be able to get through it. Alright, anyway. So let's go ahead and start with the last thing I read, which was Batman White Knight number 3. Now, I am still on the fence about this. I really don't know what direction we're quite going in with it, and what we want to be said and done here. It's towing this line, but in a really clever way of critiquing both sides of an issue without equating them, and I quite like that. Because the implication you get from the first 2 issues is Joker is just the good guy in this, and what's shown at the beginning of this is he's not. like, Jack Napier isn't the Joker in this, but he's still doing really cutthroat, ruthless things that the Joker would do. How do I put this? So in the last issue, we saw him brainwash a bunch of or mind control rather, a bunch of villains, and in the beginning of this issue, he has them tearing through downtown, causing a ruckus, causing a stir. So that's a very supervillain Joker style plan. In a way, it reminds me of Joker's Last Laugh, and that's just not on any level the heroic thing. I mean, he's doing it to make Batman look bad. You know, I'm trying to think if there's something in mind in continuity or done before that feels, you know, similar to that. And nothing's coming, like, maybe, oh, Lex Luthor, Man of Steel, the Hope robot, wherein he did like a whole thing just to make Superman look bad, just to like taint the image of Superman in people's minds. That's what this feels like. This feels like Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermejo's Lex Luthor, Man of Steel. And so Napier's like working to turn the people of Gotham against Batman. And Batman is realizing his flaws and what he's not been good at doing because he's been too focused on the super criminal stuff. And then we're also introducing the second Harley as more than just a write-off character, which I like. Initially, the idea of introducing another Harley, I was torn on because I like the idea of getting a classic Harley Quinn back that isn't just like the Suicide Squad style like Harley. You know, to be frank about it, I like that idea. I didn't quite care for the execution that was done with the second issue. This developing her further, making her kind of a villain to the villain of this book, I like the direction we're going in, where she's calling herself Neo Joker, and she's trying to take Joker's place or get him back, basically, which is a really, really good idea. Gotta find it again where she shows up, because she's at the end here. She's at the end here talking to Mad Hatter, and she's in a couple other panels and pages and stuff. Like this panel of her I really like. Sean Gordon Murphy was showing it off. She's got like the 3 diamonds, but she's also got like the acid flower and like the white hair and the kind of smile look to her with the makeup. I think that's quite clever. I like that quite a bit. Anyway, I like that direction of having her like show up to try to bring Joker back, making her a character in and of herself. That I like. That's something that, yes, we can have 2 Harleys in the comics if they do something like this, where one is legitimately trying to become a better person, the other is trying to, you know, wants to be around the Joker all the time. Kuma Ranger says, does Napier feel any remorse for doing the false flag attack? No, not at all. At least shown in this issue, none whatsoever. And that's really good. I really like that. Give me one sec, just gonna move the microphone here. Damn. I'm not gonna just read the chat's criticisms of White Knight, but they're around the bend. But I will admit that like this book it feels really off at times. It feels like the writer, who's also the artist, is playing with some ideas here that he doesn't have a super great grasp on. And maybe that's just he's trying to be more fair, he's trying to be more down the plate with it than to just be preachy. And I can understand that. I can appreciate that. But what is this? 3 of 8? It's a lot of issues to kind of play. What's that? Patty foot, whatever the hell you call it, patty cake. Put your left foot in. Put your hokey pokey. There we go. So I don't know. I'm definitely torn on it. I've gone kind of 3 issues, and I went from liking the first issue, not liking the second, liking the third. I'm iffy on this. It's got its moments though. Like this scene where Bruce goes to stitch himself up in next to Alfred's hospital bed and just collapses over in a pool of his own blood is really, really good. And then it's absolutely heartbreaking to see the aftermath of that. I really, really liked that there is a true consequence. This is the thing I think about about Batman stories is you're not really writing a great Batman story unless you're pushing Bruce Wayne and Batman in serious ways to question what they're doing and giving them serious consequences. And this scene really does. Like, that's a great moment where Bruce collapses on the floor in front of Alfred's hospital bed and then wakes up connected to Alfred's medical equipment to find Alfred dead in a chair. And then the next scene is his funeral. That is a truly tragic scene. And honestly, I don't think I could write a better Alfred death. I don't think anyone could write a better Alfred death. Like, everyone loves The Dark Knight Returns. I think the Alfred death in that is completely pointless and totally unearned compared to something like this where Alfred's been sick since the beginning and Bruce doesn't have a Robin right now and he's kind of being pushed to his limit left and right. That's a pretty impactful kind of scene. I will say though, again, part of this feels like Sean Murphy's kind of shaky on his feet. And Robert Emmett's bringing this up in the comments right now because we have this scene with Batgirl and Dick Grayson looking at Jason Todd's grave. And Dick explains that Jason was Robin before him, and he died in battle, and Bruce got Dick after the fact. I don't get why that's a choice that was made, and honestly, I don't think Sean Murphy did either. Like, I was reading through his Twitter, and he said straight up, yeah, I should have made Tim like the Robin in this continuity. I should have just kept the standard continuity, but I didn't. And I'm like, yeah, you didn't. It's not lazy. It's not even sloppy. It's just, it's creating a problem that doesn't really need to be there. It's not even a problem. It's creating a bit of confusion, a bit of, wait, what? For comic fans that didn't need to be there. Because comic fans know who Jason Todd is. This is a comic book. Comic fans are reading it. Why would you do that? Like, it seems like thought wasn't put into that decision. It seems like it feels organic. Perhaps too organic. And this is something interesting to talk about in writing, because people don't talk about this enough. People think writing is, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to plot out my story and tell my story. And that is certainly a part of it, but that is not all of it. Part of writing, part of good writing is every choice has to be deliberate. In a novel, for example, no event, no wording is supposed to be accidental. like sometimes you can't help but just use a lot of really basic words because you just need to get an idea across as quickly as possible. But like if you go to short stories, every word matters. And so like this feels like Sean Murphy has a bunch of cool ideas that he wants to get out, and he's just kind of getting them onto the page as quickly as possible, but he's not being meticulous enough in plotting and thinking about the implications and the world his story is building. So it's not like book breaking by any means. What could still potentially be is the implications of what he's trying to say with these politics. So we'll see. Anyway. Alright, let's go ahead and move along to Captain America, number 696. I quite like this. Steve Rogers seems to be just going on kind of like a country tour. And he's like just trying to find a place to live that's not New York. And there's a little bit of political commentary in there for the East Coasters that I can certainly agree with. East and West Coasters, the coasters, let's call them, that I can certainly agree with. Like, I'm from Middle America, and I hear the liberal elite on the coast, the liberal elite, say stuff like, "Oh, the country just needs to come together," but then they call my state flyover country, and I'm like, yeah, well, this is why people here don't like you. Anyway, so Captain America's like looking for a place to live that's not New York, and he's just kind of driving through small towns, and I really like the way this story gets started. He walks into a diner and asks if he can trade doing some dishes for lunch, and they say, yeah, we could probably work that out, but then they realize he's Captain America, and like the whole town's publicity scene blows up, and everyone's trying to figure out what's Captain America doing in our small town. And then a villain who's hiding out near this small town thinks that Captain America's onto him, so he starts to stage a attack on this dam that's near the town. And then Steve has to go and stop the attack, and like he's fighting the guy. And during the fight, I really, really like this. During the fight, the dam just starts opening and blowing up. And I really, really like this point the villain makes. I said you could find me here in 20 minutes. I never said you could stop me. That is, I mean, it's not original, but it is not nearly used enough. It's a writing crutch. A lot of these high action, intense, suspenseful superhero comics hang on. It's right out of Watchmen, right? It's like, I'm not some comic book villain. I ended the world 20 minutes ago, right? Like it's that same thing. And yeah, I like that moment though. It's just not used enough. It's not used like when the villain calls out the hero to confront him, and then it's too late by the time the hero already shows up. You know, how often do we see villains monologue and all this? And yeah, it's a plot device, it's a writing device to be used as a crutch. This I quite like because it's unexpected when you use it. It was cool. I liked the way this was integrated here. So then Cap has to take the guy out real quick and figure out a way to stop the dam, and he uses the guy's vibranium sword to pull the manual override and save the day. Jake Carlson in the comments is talking about the artist on here, and I gotta look at his name again real quick. Chris Samnee is doing the art on here. And he has a great minimalist style. Really reminds me of Mike Allred. Those two should work together. I will say one small complaint. I like this panel, but if that sword is vibranium, the leverage is all wrong, and he should be cutting through that pipe as he turns the wheel. Just saying, it should definitely be the other way around. But yeah, the art in here is really, really cool. You know me, I love silhouettes. This whole page is awesome. It's got this great minimalist basic feel. this feels... What I like about art that does this kind of minimalist, classic comic book style is this could come out literally in any decade. The only reason you'd know that this is a comic from 2017 is because it opens with Steve Rogers talking about how he doesn't want to get a smartphone. And, like, even then, that leaves open 10 years of when this comic could have been published at this point and on into the future, because I doubt we're getting rid of new updates every other year for smartphones. There's also some cool art. I love silhouettes, and I just like the way this fight plays out across this 2-page spread in skinny panel of silhouettes. That's really neat. And again, just a lot of cool images. He does a good job here. I really like it. You know, Cap jumping in front of the American flag for the shield. That's awesome. Yeah. So anyway, Cap decides that he's got to mosey on along, hit the old dusty trail, and keep searching America, but he's being stalked by Kraven. It's spoilers that it's Kraven. It's not really spoilers because you turn the page and they show you the cover for next week's issue, and it's Kraven. I don't know why you do that. Like, Deadpoolzilla just ruined it in the comments too, because he's like, "Oh, Kraven's gonna be the next issue." Thanks, guys. You know, the one thing I really like about comics is it's not super covered in like the media and stuff, so it's actually possible to read a book without spoilers. You guys, like, sometimes the cover spoils it for you, which I always hate. But just damn it. You guys, no, I mean, the tease for the cover for next month spoiled it for me, and the cover for next month would have spoiled it for me if I couldn't just guess it was Kraven to begin with, but whatever. Shit happens when you party naked. Well, Jake Carlson is talking about the minimalist line work opens it up for the colorist. It's great to see more people do that. Scott Collins is really the only other person who does that style that comes to mind. For me, it's Mike Allred. Mike Allred all the way does that very nice, minimalist, but just charming as hell, beautiful artwork that feels like it could fit any decade of comic books, and I really like that. Anyway, let's go ahead to what I'm sure everybody's excited to hear me talk about. Batman, number 36, featuring the Man of Steel. And I'm going to make ya wait it out while I take a sip of nice Coca-Cola. Oh, Jake Carlson, you've never heard of Mike Allred? Yeah, you got to check out Mike Allred. It's the shit, dude. Mike Allred's amazing. Check out his Mad Men or read the Silver Surfer run he's doing. He did with Dan Slott. It's really, really good. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk Batman number 36. So this is just adorable in that we have Batman and Superman having you know, bickering conversations with their significant other as Batman's planning to get married to Catwoman. I love that. That's just beautiful. This issue got everybody excited. Everyone was talking about this, and I really like how, you know, Tom King knows how to write couples dialogue. You know, this is pretty standard, like, just back and forth bickering. This is just what it's like to be in a relationship. I gotta tell you, Ivan, you know, waiting ring right there. You know, it's just, you just kind of like bicker. It's not like out of hatred or anything. You just disagree about stuff, and you just go back and forth. Nah, nah, and Tom King gets it really well. And I just like it. It's fun. And so we just get them both bickering about who should call who, like Batman and Superman wondering whether or not they should call each other, and Lois telling Superman to call Bruce, and Selina telling Bruce to call Clark, and all this stuff. And they're just like, they're both making up excuses and putting it off and putting it off. And I really, really like the underlying reason as to why. And just Tom King should have written the Batman v Superman movie, because this could have just been it, and it would have been the greatest thing ever. Anyway, I like that it all boils down to they are both so impressed with the other. I really, really like that Superman feels honestly intimidated by Batman because of the sheer force of will. Batman kind of embodies everything that he finds amazing about humanity, and he feels in a lot of ways still like an outsider to humanity because he does not imagine that he would have the ability to overcome what Bruce overcame. And Bruce feels intimidated by Superman because he does not imagine that he could act anywhere nearly as responsible as Superman has with the power that he has. And I really, really like that dynamic, that they have such immense respect for one another, yet are best friends and just don't want to admit it. That's adorable. And yeah, Jake Carlson, thanks for being here tonight, man. You're drawing my attention to a lot of things. King with the panel layouts, I really like this. We get these grids that separate the conversation straight down the middle of the page. It's really nice. It's clean. It's crisp. It's really easy to follow, and that's just great. And then this scene is just hilarious, as they both are tracking leads on people at the same time, and they enter a building through different elevators. Batman going down, Superman going up, and they're like, wait, what? And Lois just reaches over and introduces herself to Catwoman, and that's adorable. Oh, and then Superman's just like, so, y'all want to go get lunch? Or want to get a bite to eat? I really like that. Tom King, of course, follow him on Twitter, and he, a couple months back, was sitting there wondering, how would Superman say you guys, or you, all of you, to a group of friends? Like, do you guys want to go get lunch? And I really like that you know, there's this whole conversation. It should be y'all, you, y'all, do you all? And so I like that it actually comes out here. And this is actually good to talk about with Murphy's book. That's a really easy line to just write real quick and be done with it. So you guys want to go get lunch? Or you guys want to go get a bite to eat? But you can see the level of detail and thought that was put into just literally a sentence. In that he actually asked people and tried to see what they thought Superman would say. And you know, obviously that's not a resource every writer has access to, and this is a really small thing that doesn't involve spoilers or stuff like that. So it obviously there's a million things you can say about, oh well, you couldn't do that for this reason with Murphy, and I'm not comparing them one to one. I'm just saying you can see on the page and through the person the level of thought that was put into this line, whereas with Murphy it doesn't seem that way. And that's just a really basic level of writing, just learning to be very cognizant, very exacting with your choices of what to do, what kind of choices you're making. And so I really appreciate King for that. He's a very exacting, very particular writer. Like, I know I've seen people say that King's stuff is really boring and like nothing happens, just all repetitive dialogue. You gotta read it closer. A lot of it takes a much closer read than that. And so that's what I really appreciate about it. Superman doesn't need a ton to say in this. Like, he's talking, but it's not like a very Superman heavy book. This is a pretty well split between Superman and Batman, Lois and Catwoman. So I'm curious to see how this develops and what's done with it further. And I'm interested to see Tom King write Superman a little bit more. Anyway. Y'all don't understand how dry your mouth gets talking like this. Klaus and the Crisis in Xmasville, #1. So last year, Grant Morrison finished up his mini-series called Klaus. That was his mythical Santa Claus origin. It is a fantastic hardcover. Let me go grab that real quick. Professionalism! I'm the most professional reviewer on the planet. Yeah! So damn professional. I got everything prepared right beforehand. Not a problem whatsoever. Yeah! I know what I'm doing. I'm sitting here talking about how guys should be more conscious of the choices they make. And what the fuck do? I get up in the middle of a live show to walk away and pick up a goddamn book. Yeah! Anyway, so Klaus was a really, really cool limited series written by Grant Morrison with art by Dan Mora. We did a Geeky Gentleman on this last holiday month, so you can go check that out if you want a review of this series. And this is a gorgeous hardcover. Oh, I love the gold pages. It feels like a Christmas book that you pull off the shelf. And I am going to reread this sometime this month. But Morrison decided that he was going to do a Klaus story every year for Christmas. He was going to do a Christmas special. That's really cool. I really like that idea. I read this issue. I have no idea what the fuck is going on. I have no idea what the fuck is going on in this issue. Which is a pretty normal response to Morrison. Morrison, like King, is a very detailed writer. He crams a lot into one issue, and this is a pretty good-sized book. This is an $8 book, pretty thick for a single-issue comic book, and he crams a lot in here. It also doesn't help that I didn't read his other one-shot from last year, because, like, the Klaus series finished up last year, but in December, when the hardcover was coming out, he had another one-shot come out. That was like starting the tradition of doing a Klaus story every year. I never got around to reading that. I never found an issue of it, and as far as I know, it's not been collected in anything. Maybe he's planning to put out a collection of these at some point. But I can't help but feel like there are characters introduced in that show up here, because otherwise, where the fuck did they come from? I remember this story really well. I remember this really well. I do not remember some of the people that show up in this. That being said, I do think that this has the elements of good. Though, once I get into it again, once I give it another read through and scratch my head on it some more and try to connect all the symbolism and stuff, because Morrison's a big fan of that, I still cannot help but feel like this is just too much for a single issue. I honestly cannot help but feel like this is way too much to get done in one issue. Because in this, without describing the plot at all, we introduce a threat. We have Klaus summoned to help fight that threat. We have Klaus overwhelmed by that threat and are given a ton of world building for this universe in the scene where he is overwhelmed. We have Klaus recuperate with his allies. We have Klaus go back with an ally. We have Klaus re-engage the threat and defeat it. And then we have the threat fully defeated in our world. And then we have an epilogue conclusion that takes place in the modern day. That's just a lot to get done in one issue. And Robert Emmett's in the comments, and he's saying, so this isn't a new miniseries? No, this is a one-shot. I am reasonably sure that this is a one-shot, and we are not getting any more issues this year. I'm pretty sure this is it. And that's just a lot for a single issue. and Morrison's great at putting a lot of dense material into something, but that's just a lot to do in an issue. You know, I'm looking at my live comments. Great Child says it should probably be a thicker book. It probably should. I would not have minded paying more for it just so he could have some more time to breathe with this. But even I cannot get away from the feeling that once I understand everything, it'll still feel like there's just too much happening at once. I'm chasing down a million things at once with this, and just feels too dense. It feels too dense in too short a span. This should have been like a 2-issue series or something. It's just not my it is not as great as I hoped it'd be. I was really excited for this. You know, it's Klaus, Grant Morrison's Warrior Santa versus the Coca-Cola Santa Claus. Not that you shouldn't enjoy a fresh tasting Coca-Cola. See, what that was me being clever and finding a way to make an excuse to take a drink in the middle of talking about a book, which I try to not do. No, but okay, so like, what is the story itself? There's a town called Xmasville that was a town founded by a soda company that was adopting the image of Santa Claus as its mascot, like Coca-Cola did. That's a cool idea for Klaus to go up against. But then it's not just that it's a town of Santa Claus. It's a town of zombie, like, mind slave Santa Clauses that are subservient to this company called, what do they call it? Polar Cola or something like that? Pola Cola. It's a town of, like, mindless zombie Santa Clauses that are subservient to the evil company Pola Cola, who has made a deal with some kind of interdimensional aliens in order to try and rule the world through Christmas, making every day Christmas. Their evil plan involves turning the world against Santa Claus. I got to show you this image. Oh no, wait, it's a couple pages later. Their evil plan is to turn the world against Santa Claus in order to reintroduce Santa Claus as their own company mascot. Like, a new Santa Claus is their own company mascot. So they want to, like, poison the minds of children and inspire a Santa-based riot. And, honestly, I'm not saying that is too far. I am down for that. That is fine. But they're in league with aliens to rule the Earth through that, and the aliens are an interdimensional race connected to how Klaus got his powers, and there's an evil anti-Santa Claus that's the exact opposite, powered by the Dark Ones of this opposite side of the universe. It's too fucking much, Grant Morrison. I'm sorry. I love you. I love you, Grant Morrison, and your bald Scottish head, but it's just too much for one book. Also, the paper quality is a bit shit because I've got some fray in there. Yeah, it's a great idea. It's a lot of cool ideas. I cannot say that it's just too much. Dan Mora, though, does some really cool art. Like, this is just a great image. Goose stepping Santa Clauses. And I like this flare gun that is put in the book as, like, Klaus gives it to people as a way to summon him. And Klaus still looks really cool and shit. Dan Mora definitely picked up his end. I can't help but feel like Grant Morrison just wants to get way too much done way too quickly with this universe, and he needs to pump the brakes a little bit. This just, it feels like he's just trying to cram way too much in here to me. Still some really great art and some really cool imagery. And I'm sure I will like it more once I give it a couple reads. I usually don't immediately fall in love with something Grant Morrison does on read through one. I usually have to read through something a couple times. But this was something I was really looking forward to. And end of the day, I'm a bit disappointed by it. I'll still read it again. I'll give it another shot. I'll read through this. I will hunt down a copy of Klaus and the Witch of Winter, I believe it's called. And I'll read through that, and then I'll get back to this. And maybe that will all make it kind of connect a bit better once I remember all the alien stuff going on in the original Klaus run. Okay, let's go ahead and move along after I take another sip of delicious, tangy Coca-Cola. Tangy's not a good adverb for Coke, or not adverb. Yeah, adverb for Coca-Cola. All right. Let's talk about the DC Holiday Special for 2017. I really like this. This is a lot of fun. I love this back. This should have just been the cover, honestly. Like, this is a great cover. It's a really fun cover. I love everybody on it. Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, all smiling, riding a sled. You got Flash, Kid Flash, Robin, John. That's really, really cool to see. That's a lot of fun. But I don't know, something about that image is just beautiful. I kind of want to recreate that in Vegas with an animated snow background, because that wouldn't be too hard. I just need the DC logo and a green background. Anyway, so yes, we got the holiday special. They did something just like this back in October for Halloween. That was not nearly as good as this, I'll be honest. I liked a couple of the stories in that, but overall I feel that was a really rocky holiday special. This was great. This doesn't have a bad story, honestly. Reading through it, I enjoyed every story I read here. So we have a framing device for this one, which I think is a really good choice. Wherein Clark Kent is in a bar, and a bartender has kicked John Constantine out for being such a sourpuss on the holidays. And, you know, in 2017, he certainly has a right to be. And Clark is just doubting that Superman can take care of everything. And this guy at the bar says, no, let me tell you some stories that I've heard bits and pieces of, and you'll see that the world's not all bad. And so then we go into just these various stories by different artists and writers. This first one is written by Denny O'Neil, which amazes me. I thought he'd fully retired. Apparently the man still got it in him. That's cool. In this first story is a Batman story where a kid and his grandma years ago were walking in the middle of a blizzard, and no one would let them in. And so the grandmother died, and cops had to take the kid in, and she kind of like stayed with him as a ghost. And as an adult, he kidnapped some people because she told him to, and he's going to kill him because she's telling him to, and Batman kind of had to do the detective work to find out where these people were being held and stop the guy from committing murder that he doesn't want to do, but he's seeing his grandma's ghost. And we get some really cool Batman art. Like, that's great. There's my Batman Christmas right there. That is a beautiful, beautiful image. That fits right in there with some of the long Halloween kind of imagery right there. That is Batman coming through the chimney with the holly and ribbons and bows up. Oh, I really like that image. Anyway, so, you know, Batman saves the day. It's a fun, simple story. The guy realizes that he doesn't want to commit murder and lets go of his grandmother's ghost. It's pretty good. The second story is about Green Arrow and Black Canary wanting to give toys to children. And, you know, Black Canary's kind of like... orphan children, specifically. Black Canary's kind of like, I don't know about all this. This seems kind of silly. These kids got to know that the world's not going to be a, you know, happy, beautiful place, blah, blah, blah. And Ollie's the one that's like, hey, they deserve an escape from that for one fucking night. And in the middle of all the chaos, or in the middle of their argument, robbers show up to steal some donation toys, and they have to get out of costume and into their other costumes and save the day. And the children see that, and apparently they know that Black Canary is an orphan. And they go and they rush to her and say thanks for helping Santa. And she like kind of melts a little bit and goes, of course I helped Santa, and you know, anything for you guys and all this stuff. And you know, Ollie kind of wins the day, and they hand out toys to the orphans. Really beautiful. The art in this reminds me of kind of like an early 2000s, early to mid 2000s style. Let's see here. Phil Hester. Yeah, I've seen some of his stuff before, and this just looks like it came out of 2005, doesn't it? It's got like that, you know, nice, bold, bright colors, and that's not a bad thing. 2000s are honestly my favorite period in DC Comics. Not necessarily the best, but my personal favorite. And like, there's just a lot of cool imagery here, and it just really works, and I like it. And it's you know, it's teaching Black Canary the meaning of Christmas. Yay! Black Canary is a crazy person for wearing leggings and a skirt in the middle of snow, but that's okay. She wears that in bullet fights, I suppose. That snow doesn't really matter. Maybe her legs are just entirely scar tissue at this point, and she has no sensation there. And then we get Sergeant Rock in Going Down Easy by Tom King. And I will say, whoever the fuck decided to give Tom King a feature in a Christmas collection, I don't know why you decided to do that. Because the man is known for just being incredibly depressing sometimes. I mean, I love him to death, but like, Tom King makes you cry. That's just his thing. He likes to make you cry because he's a bastard, apparently. I don't know. But like, this is a really dark... This is this is so totally off from the entirety of the rest of the book. And it's pretty dark, and it's kind of scary. Like, it has a happy ending. I don't want to paint it too dark, but it's just like, well, fuck. You know, I cannot help but feel like Tom King maybe had a story that he wanted to tell, and they asked him if he could do anything for the holiday special, and he decided to do this. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting. And I don't want to like give the impression that this is bad. I'm not, you know, shitting on the Messiah, but this is like so off from the rest of this holiday special. So it's about Sergeant Rock, who is a character I don't really know anything about. Like, I just vaguely know he's a character in DC Comics continuity that like was around in World War II and went on missions. I assume he was probably a character introduced in some of the old DC World War II comics. And in this, it's a story about a guy that was escorting a German prisoner, Nazi prisoner, through the woods when they were attacked by artillery. And so the American soldier has been injured by shrapnel, and he is guarding the German prisoner for 7 nights without dying, just trying to keep his sights on the guy and make sure that he doesn't get away, in the hopes that his company will find them and be able to continue keeping him in custody. And then this is just a bunch of conversations that the guys have over the nights that they're in this situation together. And it's kind of dark, and it ends on like a oh my god kind of moment, and you don't really know what's gonna happen. And in the end, like I think the German prisoner is dead by the end of this, and the company is able to save no, it's not even able to save him. He dies. Of course he dies. It's Tom King. Of course they die. He always dies. Tom King just kills people. Anyway, the guy dies, but at least his company found him before he died. I don't know. It's just sad. Like, it's in winter, so I guess it's Christmassy in that regard. Not exactly what you expected from the DC holiday special, though. I feel like Tom King maybe didn't get the memo. It's still a good story. It's a cool little war story, and I liked it in that regard. Tom King being in Iraq in the Iraq War as a member of the CIA, he's definitely got like a perspective on the whole war story, war scenario thing. So this was really interesting to read. It makes me want to read Sheriff of Babylon, Sheriff of Babylon, which I have both volumes of. But I'm waiting on seeing what Steve wants to do about those. Next story we get is a Flash story. Flash in Hope for the Holidays. This is a really basic story, but it's really fun, and I really liked it, wherein the Flash is talking to Wally, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get together for the holiday, because he's in the middle of fighting Rainbow Rider, who is throwing presents at the Flash. And Flash is able to beat him, but there are all these people stranded at an airport in Central City because of a snowstorm. They're not going to be able to get home. Flash talks to a little girl who's all by herself at the airport, and she just asks him if he can bring these two presents she got for her parents to them, so they have them on Christmas. And he says he can do them one better, and rushes her all the way across the country to her house, and rushes back to the airport, and rushes everybody in the airport home, before he then heads out west to meet up with Wally so they can have Christmas Eve together in Titan's Tower. It's a really sweet story. It's great use of Flash using his powers. It's Grey Childs asks, why is the girl at the airport? She was apparently on like a school trip or something. So she was like not all alone, but not with family, if that makes sense. And Jacob Carlson's telling me, oh, the deluxe of Sheriff of Babylon is coming out next year. Yeah, great. So glad I brought both volumes already. That always happens to me. Same thing happened when I bought his Vision run. It's like as soon as I got the second volume, it's like after I bought it at the store, the guy goes, oh, you know the hardcover of this is coming out next year? Anyway, but this story I like a lot. It's a nice use of like the Flash's powers. It feels like just a nice wholesome kind of thing, and I like that about it. The next one is Deathstroke in a Wilson Family Christmas, and this one he's just bickering with his wife over the phone about going on missions, and like this is a really cool, like this is a very, very, very memeable 2-page spread. Oh, we gotta think of some jokes to make with that one. That's too much fun. So Slade's hidden something in a toy that's gotten like donated to charity or something. He's just dealing with terrorists on the holidays, or people trying to kill him on the holidays, and all this kooky craziness. And it's just about the drama of a Slade family Christmas. Meh. Just, yeah, I just don't really care for Deathstroke as a character that much. He never really does much for me. But I mean, it was a good Deathstroke story, I guess, for like as good a Deathstroke Christmas story as I can imagine anyone doing. For what that's worth. I didn't think like it really wowed me in any significant way. It was kind of funny, kind of silly. I feel like, again, this 2-page... This was a great use to give the writer, Priest... Okay. To give Priest some credit here, because I feel like I'm making it sound bad. It's not bad. This is a pretty good use of the page turn. To have this whole conversation, you wondering, okay, what the hell's Slade up to? What the hell's Slade up to? What the hell's Slade up to? And you turn the page, and you just get that. That's really funny. That's a really great 2-page spread. And again, this is just so meme-worthy. This is so meme-worthy. I could have a lot of fun with that. So that it's good use of the page turn tactics, stuff like that. I'm excited to see what people come up with that one. I hope that turns into something. Okay, then we have the Atomic Knights. I need a piece of paper and I can't seem to find one. Yay, yay. I need a piece of paper and I can't seem to find one. So, the Atomic Knights, huh? Let me just pull a joke that I'm stealing from Comics Kid 2099 here. Here's my nerd card. Yeah, you can see it there? Yeah, nerd card. I don't know who the fuck the Atomic Knights are. I have no idea who the Atomic Knights are. I'm just gonna freely admit that. No idea, no fucking clue. Who the fuck are the Atomic Knights? Someone in the comments want to tell me, because I don't know anything about them. If that makes me a bad person, fine. And no, it was not Verd card. There was an N. It's just the pen didn't write it very well. You can kind of sort of see it. Verd card. Does anyone in the comments know who the Atomic Knights are? This story is written by Dan Didio. I don't know why Dan Didio decided to write an Atomic Knight story. Like... So, there's this town that the Atomic Knights protect, and the town is afraid of some trees that they've had quarrels with in the past, some sentient trees, and the trees are marching toward the town, so they think that it must mean war, and the Atomic Knights are telling them, no, it doesn't have to mean that, and like, the Atomic Knights end up being right, because the trees remember Christmas, and erect a Christmas tree, so that they can all live together in peace and good times. Cool. But I don't know, like, I don't have anything for that. I don't know anything about the Atomic Knights. They're riding dogs, they're riding giant dogs, which just feels very Kirby, like maybe they're Kirby characters, I don't know. Because I know he's got, like, the dog soldier, or the dog riders in, with the New Gods. Maybe they're connected to that or something. I don't fucking know. Anyway. That was it. Next we got Teen Titans in Holiday Spirit. This is a pretty basic story. Starfire is an alien, so she doesn't really feel like she understands Christmas. She has to deal with a evil ghost that makes people feel depressed on Christmas, and she calls the Titans together to defeat it, and she realizes that you need to make new family memories when you're... that Christmas is about making new family memories. It's not about celebrating winter. It's about overcoming the feeling of cold that winter brings. That's fine. I don't know. The reason I'd want to read a Teen Titans story is for Damian. And Damian isn't written poorly here, but he's not, like, super well written, you know? Like, I like this little exchange when they're all eating in the aftermath. On Christmas Day, they're like, oh, who says you can't buy Christmas dinner at a 24-hour convenience store? And Damian's like, anyone with properly functioning taste buds. And it's like, that's like a 6 on witty Damian lines. who wrote this. Shia Fontana, and she did the Wonder Woman arc that after Rucka that I really liked, but this just didn't wow me, I guess. It's not bad, it's just not terribly impressed by it. Then we get Swamp Thing in the Echo of the Abyss by Scott Bryan Wilson and Nick Klein. This is a weird story. It takes place in the future where, like, Earth is on the brink of thermonuclear war, and the last surviving humans are on a space station and will run out of supplies. When Swamp Thing is able to manifest because of a mistletoe that was brought up to space, and he warns that they need to be able to embrace the green, embrace their humanity in order to survive. So I guess we got kind of like a Noah's Ark situation here via Swamp Thing and the Green. This is just a really cool 2-page spread of Swamp Thing like yelling at this guy and the guy freaking out. But yeah, it was an okay story. Then there's Wonder Woman and Batman in Solstice, written by Greg Rucka. I thought this was kind of interesting, as it's told from both of their perspectives, back and forth. But they talk about the encroaching darkness and the need to embrace the light and use that as a metaphor for humanity and the fear of what could happen to you. Anyway, they we just see them do a bunch of their heroic things, and in the end, they come together to light a bonfire out in the woods. And I like the reason that Wonder Woman gives for it, because Batman's trying to talk her into, why don't you just do this with Clark? He'd love all this Boy Scout stuff. And Wonder Woman says, Clark does not need this. He makes his own light. But you and I have more intimate relationship with darkness. So you and I must guard against being consumed by it and remind ourselves that light always remains. So Batman and Wonder Woman have their winter solstice tradition. Kind of like that. Then it all wraps up as Superman, or Clark Kent rather, finishes talking to the bartender. The one thing I will say, I really like the framing device. How many of those stories actually work as something the bartender could have heard about? Like, a lot of the emotional core of these stories, like the Flash and Teen Titans story in particular, only function because of private details of the superhero's life. Then there's just, like, other stuff, like the Atomic Knights are in a separate timeline. So just how these got back to him, the framing device kind of breaks down, is all I'm saying. They don't sound like stories of people finding hope through superheroes. So either he is telling different stories, or he is telling very different versions of these stories than what we, the reader, are seeing. Anyway, Superman goes out and kind of confronts Constantine, who's being a real Scrooge. And in the end, being the hopeless optimist, Clark won't walk away from him and asks if he wants to go get a bite to eat, and brings him back home with his family. I don't know why he felt the need to get in his Superman suit again, but that's okay. Brings him back home for his family, and Constantine is told he's not allowed to smoke in Lois Lane's house. I really like that. And this is just like the biggest middle finger to Alan Moore in history. And I kind of love it. Just John Kent puts a Santa Claus hat on Constantine and is like not allowed to smoke. He's like, bah humbug. He's at the end of a holiday special with the Kents. That's adorable. That is like just the most anti-John Constantine image you could possibly imagine, and I love it. That is probably my biggest middle finger to Alan Moore panel of all time, and I love it. Who wrote the framing device, I'm wondering? Jeff Lemire. Okay. Wow. Jeff Lemire wrote that. That's pretty good. That is... I would not call Jeff Lemire for that. That's pretty good. And then we got an encore of a classic holiday story. This one written a number of years ago by Mike Frederick with art by Neal Adams. So we get some classic Neal Adams blue cowl and cape Batman. And I like this where Batman is like sure that the city will need him and everything on Christmas Eve, but he ends up getting roped into singing Christmas carols with the GCPD. If you could possibly imagine that happening a couple years ago, I could imagine in Rebirth. I could not imagine that in New 52. I want. Okay, here's what we need to do, folks. We need to get a Kickstarter, and we need to get enough money to convince Christian Bale to make a short film as Batman that is an adaptation of this story. So Batman gets caught up all night singing Christmas carols with the GCPD, and he's sure that people would need him over the night, but every time that it looks like Batman was needed, just the imagery, the symbol of what Batman means to the city convinces people to do the right thing. So there's a kid who steals a present from someone, and he sees it's a Batman toy, and then he's reminded of Batman, and so he brings the present back. And there's a guy who's planning to mug someone, but he runs into Batman, and it turns out not to be Batman, it's a guy in a Batman costume, and he freaks him out, and so he decides not to do it. There's a lady who's thinking about killing herself because she thinks that her husband died, and she's about to jump off the bridge, but the bridge looks like Batman, and it gives her enough pause not to, and then luckily she's rewarded because it turns out he's alive. And that's just, that's a really sweet story. I really, really quite like that. And, Batman just kind of swings off into the sunset, or the sunrise, rather. So yeah, this was a really, really cool thing. I didn't even need to talk about a trade this week. I got this thing. This was $10, and ultimately I feel like it was worth it. It's a little more pricey than I would like it to be. I would like this to be about an $8 book, but you got to do what you got to do. That being said, though, I feel like this quite worked. I feel like this was pretty good. And I do feel like this is ultimately worth it, and kind of stands really well as a nice holiday special. Speaking of DC holiday specials, I am, of course, apt to remind you of the Green Lantern Larfleeze Christmas special that I turned into a motion comic last year. So if you're in the mood for more DC holiday specials, Google Green Lantern Larfleeze Christmas special. You should enjoy it, I hope. You don't even have to be a Green Lantern fan to enjoy it. You should be able to get a kick out of it anyway. Just know that Larfleeze is a greedy bastard. I'm going to take a quick drink, and we will move along. Alright. Bombshells United, number 7. Marguerite Bennett, always killing it. Turns out I was right based on the visual cues, so good job to the character designer for Black Adam in this continuity, because Black Adam turns out to be the guy who's come in and replaced Franco as the dictator of Spain. I really like that. Here's this cool image of him. That's really, really cool. I like that's a really clever design to do the lightning bolt as that military style slash. Oof. Robert Emmett is asking me why not Ben Affleck Batman for my pitch for the Kickstarter, and the reason being, because I want to hear Christian Bale sing Christmas carols in his Batman voice more than I want to hear Ben Affleck do it. Anyway, back to Bombshells. So yeah, this is just like the beginning of a new story arc where Kate Kane is joining the Spanish resistance to Franco, the anti-fascist movement, to not Francisco Franco, but Black Adam in this continuity, with Ray Montoya. She's rejoining it because, of course, Batwoman in this continuity fought in the Spanish Civil War. If you didn't know there was a Spanish Civil War pre-World War II, you should probably know that. And they're, like, kind of doing stuff with the occult because that's where Black Adam... that's where Black Adam draws his power from, is the occult in this continuity, apparently. But it all turns out to be a trap to kind of pin the resistance down, and Black Adam being just still Superman level powerful. Kate Kane tries her best to just go at him, but is but is just immediately overpowered and kind of thrown down a ominous chasm, and Renee Montoya jumps down after her. So that's where this story arc is beginning. Again, I just really like that Marguerite Bennett is focusing on Spain. Like, that's just not... That's not something that gets talked about a lot when you discuss World War II. Grady Childs says, Spain thing seems topical with how the Spanish government has reacted to the Catalan voting to withdraw. I mean, maybe this is kind of going, like, setting Kate Kane up in Spain has been going on in the comic for a while, so I don't think it's a direct response to that, though it could be maybe being highlighted more because of that. I just feel like people don't talk about Franco enough. And the Spanish fascist movement, because it was a big fucking deal. That's where Hitler, launched and perfected the Blitzkrieg, and that kind of just showed the problem with the march of fascism. The only reason Spain wasn't a member of the Axis powers in World War II was because it was still rebuilding from the Civil War, so it decided to sit the war out. So, this is just it's just cool to involve Spain in the story of World War II, because I feel like it was a big part of it in the lead up, and it provided some level of ideological support to the Axis powers, and of course it was the fascist power that wasn't defeated. Franco retired. People don't know that. People don't remember that. Anyway. So there's not a lot to talk about in this one. This doesn't have the big, like, soapboxy kind of moment that Marguerite Bennett likes to do, and I love to read, because mostly this is more a refresher, since we're only 7 issues into the relaunch of the series here. This is a refresher, I feel, for people who didn't know what Batwoman's backstory was in this continuity. And I like that. It's a refresher, but it's still moving the story along. That's just good writing from a serialized standpoint. It's not just a complete refresher. There is still stuff happening. This does still feel like a natural beginning to an arc, and it feels natural for Batwoman to be remembering and going through events we've already seen in her head in this. She is kind of like tortured by this. This is a big defining characteristic for her in this continuity, and that makes a lot of sense. It really works. It is perfectly reasonable for her to dwell on the events that happened to her while she was fighting in the Spanish Civil War when she's in Spain. And Black Adam being, like, if you put Batman up against Black Adam, it's like, okay, what the hell is he going to do? Like, Black Adam has no weaknesses in the same way that Superman and shit do, right? At least as far as I remember. So it is that overwhelming force for like the human member of the team to deal with. So what is Batwoman gonna do about this guy? And like I feel that's a really cool storytelling dynamic when he is embodying the fascist state that she couldn't hope to defeat, and that cost her, you know, in a lot of ways, her innocence and her idealism when she tried to defeat it when she was younger. So I really like this. This is just good storytelling. Margaret Bennett knows how to write, if nothing else. So that's great. Okay. One more minute. One more book. We can do this. Alright. Let's go on to Darth Vader, number 9. What happens in this issue? Vader starts fighting Jocasta Nu after the Inquisitor fought Jocasta Nu and beat her. But Jocasta Nu has access to weapons, and so maybe she'll overpower Vader. She's not going to It's an action issue. Jocasta's pissed off because, you know, the legacy of the Jedi is being, you know, tarnished by the Inquisitor and all this stuff. It's just, it's creating some ideas that really make me scratch my head, because the Inquisitor like goes through this whole thing where he's really like angry at Jocasta Nu for never letting him read the archive, like select archives of the Jedi Order. And like he says, what's the line he has in here that just feels really weird for him to say? Hold on. I gotta find it. Okay, so as he's fighting her, he's talking about how he never felt at home in the Jedi Order. Then he goes, I used to dream of this, you know, striking you down. I thought it would be so easy. After all, they didn't stick you in the library because of your combat skills. Before the Purge, I could never find a way to do it. The other Jedi would have stopped me. But now, there are no other Jedi. So, okay, the idea that the Inquisitor, who was a Jedi, wanted or was susceptible to the dark side, I'll give you. Fine. Whatever. Jocasta Nu getting angry and striking out of anger, though, when she knows everything that's on the line and she's trying to start a new Jedi Order, it just feels like cheap writing, you know? It doesn't feel like well executed writing. You know, there's just no two ways around it. And that's unfortunate. I would like it to be better executed than that, but it's just not. So yeah, she kind of deserves to die right now. I kind of like to give a little credit to the writing here. I like this exchange that Vader has with the Inquisitor, because like the Inquisitor's bringing down his lightsaber to stop her, and Vader walks in right at that moment and stops him from doing that and says no. And I just like this exchange that they have. Why? This is a Jedi, Jocasta Nu. She is defenseless. Why shouldn't I kill her? Because I do not wish it. You do not wish it? Why would you not? Why would you want a Jedi to live? I will not say it again. Put up your blade. I know where my loyalties lie, Vader, but you, I do not really know at all. Perhaps you should deactivate your lightsaber first, as a sign of trust. I do not require your trust, Grand Inquisitor, only your obedience. That's a cool interaction. I like the tension between these guys. Yeah, Grady Childs is asking, this is the Inquisitor from Season 1 of Rebels, and it's the same character. I like the tension between these guys and stuff. I find it hard to like a lot of else about this issue. Like, Inquisitor, Vader already trashed your ass once. I don't know why you think you can beat him now or question him now. Anyway, but I mean, the dialogue itself is good. Charles Soule is one of those guys, like, I think he overstretches himself. I think Charles Soule has the ability to be a really good writer when he really gets down to it. But I don't think he's one of these guys that can juggle multiple projects and keep a consistent quality going. And again, this feels a lot like a boss fight. Like, there's stages to it. First there's Jocasta Nu fighting the Sith Inquisitor. Then there's Vader bickering with the Sith Inquisitor. I feel like I'd have to press circle a bunch of times in this saber struggle. Then there's Vader starting to fight Jocasta Nu, or trying to find Jocasta Nu, and having to fight, like, a robot guardian that caught his lightsaber. That was kind of a cool moment, no lie. They has to fight a robot guardian, and then Jocasta Nu, like, gets a lightsaber-powered rifle, I guess, and shoots Vader. I don't know. It's not great. The Kuma Ranger asks, what writer can? I don't know. I feel Grant Morrison can write several books at once and maintains really good, consistent quality. Tom King's writing Mr. Miracle, Batman, and Sheriff of Babylon right now, and those are all pretty good. I don't know. That's admittedly not as many titles as I know Soule is on right now, because I can think of 3 titles he's on the top of my head, but still. Yeah, writers do kind of overstretch themselves sometimes, fair enough. Jeff Johns, while his stuff isn't always great, he's usually on, he tends to be on when he is writing a number of books at one time, and he does a pretty consistent job across the board. I don't know how good you'd call it. It depends on your taste, I guess. Robert Emmett says, I don't buy the Inquisitor living long after pissing Vader off like that. Right? Like, you watch the beginning scene to Rebels Season 1, and the Inquisitor is, like, bowing in front of Vader as Vader gives him a mission. And he's like, yes, my master. And I don't, that's not the relationship that this is building up at all. And I mean, certainly, it's the expanded universe. You can do whatever you want with these characters, and it doesn't have to one-to-one at all, especially when it's expanded universe of expanded universe stuff, right? But still, shaky. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this. I feel like I'm really negative on this book. It's honestly, it's kind of a guilty pleasure. I kind of like getting to just poke fun at it a little bit, but it's certainly not bad. It's just kind of like, this wasn't thought through 100%, and I can kind of see the stitching, but it's still neat enough, I guess. Okay. That'll do it for comic reviews, and as I said at the beginning of the episode, I don't have trade talk to do this week. I wasn't able to get through my trade, but I will be doing one, just not live, and it will be posted on Friday like normal, and that'll be on Neil Gaiman's The Sandman Overture. I'm halfway through this. I gotta read 3 more issues. Anyway, that'll be it for that. Let's see here. Someone's talking to me in the comments. Who cares? I just want an original, wildly creative Star Wars movie. I loved Rogue One for that, and I want even more of that, but better. That's fair. That's cool. I would like more expanded Star Wars stuff too. See, Robert Everett knows what I'm talking about. It's kind of fun to make fun of this book a little bit. Robert Everett goes, the lightsaber, not as clumsy or random as a blaster, unless a blaster is made of lightsabers. Maybe it's like a lightsaber extender. Like you click it into the thing, and then it's just like you shoot like a really long lightsaber blade. And so you can like around. Uniqueness 35 saying, not saying that Star Wars EU material is bad, but it's nuts how many Star Wars stories are just meh. Yeah, I understand that, and what I think you gotta realize about Star Wars stuff, and this is why I don't really get into a ton of expanded universe, is a lot of it's just guys who are really big fans of Star Wars wanting to write Star Wars stories. And that can be great and give you great material. And there's stuff out there. But that can also produce just people who don't really have a story to tell, but just want to embrace their fandom, you know? It's whatever. If you want good Star Wars expanded universe, I really like the Kieran Gillen Darth Vader run at the beginning of Marvel's Star Wars comics that ended at 25 issues. That was really, really good in my opinion. So I recommend that if you're just looking for more Star Wars stuff. I feel that gave Vader a great character arc and is worth picking up. Grady Child says, how about a movie where the Jedi are the villains? I would like to see a Fall of the Sith Empire movie where the Jedi, like, you know, they do the right thing, but they're, like, kind of dicks about it. Like, the Jedi purge the Sith from the galaxy, all that shit. That could be fascinating. You know, like, just show that the Jedi are kind of hypocrites. I could dig that. Robert Emmett's not a fan of Rogue One. Well, shame on you. Anyway, I think that will do it for this week's episode of Comic Reviews. As I said, if you're all curious about my thoughts on the original 6-series issue of Klaus, I highly recommend you go pick this up. And if you want to hear my thoughts on it, rather, you can go check out The Geeky Gentleman on that. If you're in the Christmas spirit and want to see something Christmassy I worked on, I did a motion comic of the Green Lantern Larfleeze Christmas one-shot that came out a couple years ago. That I highly recommend as well, and all you have to do is, in the search bar up there, type in Larfleeze Christmas, and it should come up with one of the first couple results, Larfleeze. Anyway, see y'all later. Have a good week. Bye.